Hello and welcome to Pre-Sales Pathways, the podcast that showcases highly successful pre-sales professionals and the career paths that they have chosen. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Shiv Trivedi. Shiv currently leads the solutions engineering team at Factory, and before that, he was the founding solutions engineer at Glean. So over the next 30 minutes or so, you're going to hear a bit about Shiv's background and how he got into pre-sales, what the founding SE role looked like at Glean, and then last but certainly not least, some secrets to Shiv's career success so far. For those particularly that are looking to move into a founding SE role, you will not want to miss this episode. So that's enough for me. Shiv, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today. Would be great to get a quick intro from you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Chris. My name is Shiv, and I currently lead our solutions engineering team here at Factory. Been in the industry for about, let's say, give a good part of like about 5 years, just SE specifically, but been around the block in like a bunch of different roles, and just in love with this career, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Brilliant. Well, on the topic of the career, let's go right back to the beginning. So what was the first role that you did when you came out of full-time education?
Yeah, so my first job out of college was I was a corporate security engineer, or like an IT engineer at a company called Samsara. So initially, I was at a company called Meraki for my internship, where I was doing support. Didn't really enjoy like just like being like I like the customer facing aspects of it, but didn't enjoy like that is being just like in the background of the process. I wanted to kind of try something new, something more related to my degree. So ended up like joining Samsara, which is where a lot of my Meraki friends ended up going. It was very focused on like doing like large scale internal projects. I got to learn like a lot about like how an entire company operates, how buying decisions happens, because I was on the other side of the buying decision. So that was actually kind of like really good insight for me to have. And spent about like 2.5 to 3 years there. Did pretty much anything you can think of, because Samsara, when I joined, was in that really rapid scaling phase where every hiring class was like 50, 60, 70 people per every 2 weeks. So yeah, that was pretty much my first job.
Interesting. So you went from a customer-facing role in support, then to the security engineering. What was it that made you transition over to pre-sales?
Yeah, so when I was at Samsara, like I really enjoyed my job, like did really cool stuff, and got to learn how a company is built. But to your point, right? Like my internship was in a customer-facing role, and in my opinion, like most organizations like have like two core functions, right? Like which is like build something or sell something. And I also had Samsara, like when I was like trying to figure out like what my next 5 years looks like, I thought about like what I really enjoyed the most about my last 2.5 years at Samsara. And what I was really missing was this customer facing stuff. And like the most fun projects I did within Samsara was like working with like internal customers, for lack of a better term. So yeah, between like wanting to be in front of people, between like my opinion of like build something or sell something, I had known about sales engineering role for a little bit, because a lot of support people end up actually becoming sales engineers in many organizations. But yeah, could not choose between build something or sell something. So solutions engineering, sales engineering, that was literally like a natural next move for me.
Yeah, nice. And so how did you end up at Glean, and when you moved into that founding solutions engineering role, like what did the go-to-market organization look like there when you first joined?
Yeah, the way I got into Glean is kind of funny. So my company at the time was one of the first 10 beta pilots or design partners of Glean. It was actually not even called Glean back then. Saw the product, saw some potential, but really just loved the people. I just saw like all the people that were currently at the company from everything I could find publicly. I interacted with a few of them on like calls as we were like kind of in the process of like procuring / setting up Glean within our organization. So between these things, I decided like this was like probably probably like a company that could like do like great things for me. And to get the job, I actually started like cold LinkedIn messaging people. I was like, hey, do you got something for me? This is what I'm good at. This is what I can provide. Um, took me about 9 months before I actually ended up joining Glean, because they were still very early stage at that point in time. In fact, the word Glean did not exist. They came out of stealth about around the time I joined. So that's how I ended up joining Glean, and probably was a turning point in my career.
Yeah, I love it. Putting the sales in sales engineer there with all the cold outreach.
Yeah, everyone does prospecting, okay, in sales. Like SEs should do more prospecting, in my opinion.
Yeah, and really nice that then you were a customer of the product before you started there, which is always like a nice transition. So you land at Glean. You're the first solutions engineer there globally. What does the rest of the go-to-market organization look like? Who are you supporting?
Yeah, so we were about like 30 people, very, very edge heavy. I would say like, about 70% of the org was like R&D, maybe even more. But the sales team was about 3 to 4 people. So there were like two AEs before me. I was the first SE, so I was like, I guess, number three. There was one more AE that joined about the same day that I did. So it was a small group of four. Within the quarter, we grew to about let's say 8 to 10. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I was still the only SE, and I was the only SE for like pretty much the next 12 months. So you
Yeah.
can imagine like I got my hands in every deal.
And at the beginning, were you all co-located? Like, were you all in the same office, or were people spread out and remote? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I actually was remote at that point in time, because joined during pretty much like the middle stages of COVID.
Yeah.
But it was past like the rough parts of COVID, so people were still like coming into like the SFHQ. I was not like living in SF at that point, because but I made sure that I flew in frequently enough, like at least once a month or once every couple of weeks, to spend some time with the team as a whole. But really, I think the most helpful thing was like spending the first 2 weeks directly in the office, like in front of people. Um, I think SE is inherently very human. It's like very important to get in front of like the teams and like get together. And even if you're a remote first company, it's always important to make time to get all the people in the same room once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you're past the initial onboarding, I mean, the company's scaling so quickly, so it probably changes every few months, but like, just help us get a rough idea of what does your day-to-day look like what some of the activities that a founding SE is involved with.
Yeah, so I think as a founding SE, right? Like I guess like the phrase I like to use is you have to do what it takes. Like whatever it takes on that day, right? Like Glean was in a unique position where they were defining the market as they were building the product and as they were selling it. Kind of similar to Slack, right? Like Chris, like you're probably familiar with the story there. But so like my days were highly dependent, but I would say if I had to like break it down, it would be about 50 to 60% just being in front of customers. It could be either selling or helping them get set up, to like troubleshooting things and so on. I probably spent like at least 30% of my time like doing like troubleshooting and debugging, because again, it was an early product, right? Like a company that is just like 2 years in. And then like the rest of the 20% was just like, how do we make the product better? Like how do I like bubble up like the correct like feedback from the customers to the engineering team like more like comprehensively? So I spent a lot of time like doing that in the early stages. So we kind of got rid of the paper cuts early as much as possible, that were going to be existential crisis. So um, yeah, my calendar was pretty much the empire that the AEs built their businesses on. So my calendar was pretty much like controlled by the AEs at that point in time.
Yeah. I'm interested in hearing a bit more about, you mentioned the sort of feedback loop from customers to product and to engineering. I'd say most SEs would have to do some of that as part of their role, but as I understand it, you had a pretty direct relationship with the engineering team. So like, what did that look like, and how did it help to be working that closely with them?
Yeah, so I mean, when you're the only SE and like you control, like every deal is going through you, so obviously like the feedback loop is extremely tight, because Um, because I had every deal, I knew like the themes and patterns that were emerging very quickly. So I didn't have to like go talk to another group of people to figure out what themes they're seeing and then bubble them up and so on. Like I was like the theme filter, so to speak, at that point in time. So with that, like, I spent a lot of time, especially in my first 2 weeks, just like working with engineering teams to figure out like what they're working on, what are the areas of product that they own. And I tried to make sure that engineers were part of the sales process. Like, even though one level removed, but like they were part of the sales process and they understood what the customer was talking about. Customer was talking about with the features that they were building, and like what are the improvements that I've seen that like all the customers are globally asking for. So it was like super useful, like just being directly knowing who is the person responsible for this feature, and like literally just taking it up directly with them and giving it to them in a very digestible format. It was like, here are the customers that are like requesting this. This is the feature. This is how I recommend we fix it, or like this is the recommended flow that I have. And you can provide these suggestions, like kind of give them like a user journey idea, but like at the end of the day, it is engineers' job to figure out how to actually get it into production, because they may actually come up with like additional ideas or like think about business constraints that may result in the feature being implemented slightly differently. But like you want to be consultative with the engineers, right? Like you don't want to be demanding, and that's how you build trust. And once the deals start coming in, the engineers start trusting you more and more. Like when they see the dollar, the win notes going inside the organization, they start trusting you a lot more. So yeah, after the first quarter, engineers and I had like absolute trust on like what needed to get done to get these customers.
And on the theme of trust, I mean, I know it's almost unparalleled, I think, in my career in terms of an individual that was so trusted within the organization, within solutions engineering. Like, help me understand and the audience understand, what did your role look like towards the end of your time at Glean?
Yeah, towards the end, like a lot of my work was focused. I would call it like the hardest customers problem. But the customers that are willing to also like pay you the most money and have the most upside, so to speak. So I spent a lot of time like working as an overlay, like a SE overlay on like I like to call like too big to fail deals or too complex for a single person deals. So let's say if a too big to fail deal is going sideways, they would just like ship me into the deal for like a very specific period. Let me do the things that needed to get done alongside obviously the SE who owns the deal. So we'll work together on this. And once everything looked like a little bit more stable, I'll just like kind of get out of there. And the second thing is like too complex, where there's an extremely complex feature delivery that will help us win a customer. How do we use the customer as a design partner? And like, we partner with engineering internally and we partner with the customer externally and like get that feature implemented so we can get past the hurdle of getting the deal. So I was like focused on a lot of that as well.
Yeah, and there I guess the relationship you built with engineering would have been incredibly helpful.
Yeah, that was absolutely helpful, for sure. And I think like as a function of time as well, because I was one of the most tenured people at the company, just like knowing like how the product has evolved, what is possible, what is not possible, like you learn a lot, right? Like over time, like it's as a function of time. So that also helped engineers trust me a little bit more, in the sense of they know when I'm requesting something, like I'm bringing them my best offer. Like I have already like tried all the other options that we have tried in the past. So there's a little bit of that as well.
Yeah.
And also like towards the end, spend a lot of time like mentoring people, like onboarding SEs. Some of the most amazing SEs that are Glean, that I work with, and I spent a lot of time like getting in front of like large customers, because the thing is I'd lived and breathed the product since its inception. So I was like really good. It was almost like automatic for me on like describing the company story, like what is it that like we are all about, like what are the ethos or differentiators and so on. So I would also like get in front of like large customers, just get them excited, get them past the hump of like believing that this is the right solution for them, like, or like just taking care of any straggling like doubts, so to speak.
Yeah, that additional context makes such a difference, right? Going from beyond just a person who gets the product to really understanding the company and the vision and direction. So thinking back to the founding SE role, what were some of the things that you liked, and what were some of the things that maybe you were less keen on or would have ideally dropped from the role?
Yeah, I think like what I like the most about being a founding SE is that you have like full autonomy, right? Like, to figure things out. There's lots of room for experimentation to figure out what the right approach is. So I really, what I really like is like when I feel like I'm in control of like being able to figure it out myself. Obviously, I'll use my mentors and ask for help and all of those things. But like the full autonomy like allows you to go through like extremely fast like iteration cycles on like how you're going to be a better SE at that company. So that I loved about the founding SE role. Second, the team is small, so everyone knows each other. Being a founding SE means like you'll likely be in a small team, and met some of the best people in my life at Glean. Like a lot of them are still my friends. We text each other and so on. So that was great. And as a founding SE, right? Like just being able to have like direct like being able to directly get the voice of the customer, but as like in a large organization, you might have like 50 SEs, and each of them are listening from 10 customers each, and then like that has to bubble up. But like in that early founding SE role, like you are like listening to every single customer. Like having that like really tight like direct feedback loop from the customer was probably one of the most fun things I've done, and like building that trust and helping being on the side as well globally, which was super fun.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned like what would I have liked to drop? Obviously, the workload was high. Not going to lie. Like the workload was pretty intense. Especially as at a fast growing company like Glean, right? Like we were not just going after like Americas. Like we were like going after the entire world at the same time. So there were a couple of days where it would be like 12, 14-hour days. But actually, it was the most fun I had in my life because it was just something I enjoyed doing. Eventually, it gets to you though. So I would have loved to reduce my workload, and I would have loved like one of the things you'd dislike as a founding SE is like there's a higher than normal chance that the product isn't perfect. There will be things that break. You have to fix it in the background, ideally in the background if the customer doesn't see it already. But you really have to be on it. Like it's like you have to be extremely type A, which gets exhausting after a time.
Yeah. Great. Well, looking back over the whole arc of your career, not just the time at Glean, but obviously that was a very big part of it. What sort of 2 to 3 habits you would say have made you successful in your career so far?
I think there's a I think my habit of ruthless prioritization has been very, very important in my career success. Like a lot of people like try to sweat the small stuff like too much. Like it's important to first of all just ruthlessly prioritize what you're going to get done that day, and have criteria on how you're going to prioritize things internally, at least to yourself. And a lot of decisions can be made very quickly. Like sometimes like the small stuff, like the cost of being wrong is much lower than like the amount of time you're going to spend like debating the decision with yourself. So ruthless prioritization is like a very important thing for your career success. But there will be times where there'll be extremely important decisions that you have to think about. There, like it is very important for you to spend some time like thinking before acting. And I think like this is more recent to me, but I like to write down my arguments, and then I like to when I'm making an argument, or when I'm like maybe even making like a feature request or whatever, I write down my raw thoughts as quickly as possible, or even use like something like Granola that just like writes down everything for me. And my thing is, I'm only allowed to edit it once. If I cannot like argue with myself in like one turn, then like, I have a very different problem. Like I did not have a clear first thought. So I write down everything. I do like a lot of like, I literally have a Google Doc, which is, if it actually got public, it's gonna be, it's gonna be very embarrassing. But it's like all raw thoughts I type down on like, everything that goes in the company. And before I make a proposal, I take my raw thoughts, just edit it only once, like whether it's be reorganizing, talking about like the bull versus bear case of specific decisions. So two-way decisions, it's important you stop for a second, you think, and you get it up.
Yeah, I love it. I'd love to hear an example of a mistake or a challenge that you had in your career, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I think like in the early in the founding SE, right? Like you are a change agent, right? Like you're a change agent for like how the team is going to evolve, how the product might evolve, or even sales process as an extension of that, right? um I've made some mistakes in the sense of like, in early in my career, right? Like I took the change agent stuff to extreme, right? Like, I almost like started like, being almost too customer centric and like telling engineers like these features need to be this specific feature. I don't even remember what it is, but and that's again part of the problem. But this feature, I was like asking like our developer API team or experience team to just like really get this feature out. It is going to change everything. We released the feature, and the number of customers that used it, zero.
Yeah.
Got like some nice feedback after that from the engineering team. And I think like of course extremely fair feedback. And I think like the thing I learned from there is like, obviously, stop and think to really decide like, if this is worth it. Like a lot of people in SE, like you have to answer two questions, right? Like whether A, is this something like worth building as a product? Does it make sense? And B, as an engineering organization, sorry, whether it's like something worth building, and is it worth building now? If it's like if a customer's asking for it, like the timeline can change, but like the question of like, is it worth building is very important, and you need to let engineers like definitely like make that determination. And the other thing is like, as I see, if you're going to bring like feature requests or like bringing all of this feedback to any part of the organization, you need to make sure like you're holding up your end of the bargain. Like you have to be very clear on which customer is going to test it, how they're going to provide feedback. And it really taught me like how to test a champion, right? Like a customer, a champion can be like very, very demanding, but are they also willing to hold up their end of the bargain so you can hold up your end of the bargain for the engineering team?
Yeah.
So very important that you do that. And also the other thing is like just asking for more help. I think like in the early days, I was much younger back then with a much better hairline. But in the early days, right, like it was so also exciting. It's also fun as a founding SE. I think like I probably could have delegated more and asked for more help like earlier, rather than like, almost like it got to a point where, I started dropping like a few balls here and there. Thankfully, ruthlessly prioritize and only drop the small balls. But still, it's not a good customer experience, and also almost burned myself out. Almost after
Yeah.
2 years of doing that. So today, like on my team, when I see like a SE and I'm like, okay, I think they will burn out. Like I try to be proactive, because people have this tendency when things are new and exciting, they will overwork themselves. So ask for help, delegate. And SE is a team sport actually, as a career within the team, within your AEs, all of those things. So SE is a team sport. Like rely on your team.
Yeah,
When you
absolutely.
have one.
And it's a balancing act, right? I mean, the profile of the kind of candidate you're trying to attract as a founding SE is someone who is a self-starter and is resourceful, but that doesn't mean that they have to do everything on their own. So, and what about a career highlight?
Yeah. So obviously, like met some of the best people at Glean, and even at Factory, right? Some of the most amazing people I've met. Like, so my career is like defined by the people I get to hang out with. But actually, from a career highlight perspective, like there were two career highlights actually. I'll just talk about my. I'll speak to Glean, since we're talking about like founding a CISO, so to speak. But there was this one early customer very early customer who actually got on stage for a talk during our SKO or GKO, and the customer in his conversation goes, "Oh yeah, Shiv, I did not even believe that was a human. I thought you had some automation because the responses I got was like so quick, and it was perfect." So and I think like that was like one of the best comments I got. Like, and it's in a room in front of like 800 people too, right? Like, so that was actually like the best thing a customer can say about you, right? Like how responsive you are, how great your answers were, like how they got the feeling of like this is like the partner you want to go with. And similarly, like there was another customer which actually ended up being one of our largest customers at the company. And at one of the conferences, I'm with Arvind, the CEO, and that customer, that exec buyer, one level below from the CEO, from that customer comes to talk to Arvind at a booth at that conference, and I'm like happened to be standing there, and like I was already talking to him, and he looks at Arvind straight in the eyes and he goes, "Yeah, Shiv is I would say about like at least 40% the reason why we bought the product and why this actually deal went over the line." So um yeah, when you get customer love, like there's nothing that's going to beat that high in terms of career highlights.
Well, the one thing better than customer love is customer love that is sent directly to your CEO. So it doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't think it gets any better than that.
yeah, I told Arvind that this is going in my self review in the next performance cycle. So he just gave me his classic smile.
I love it. Okay, so what would be one piece of advice you would give to either your earlier self or maybe someone just breaking into the world of pre-sales?
Yeah, let's say like you're an associate SE or something like that, and like you're really trying to like be one of the best SEs out there, right? um like the main trait that is required, the main trait I look for at least when I'm hiring an SE, right, like regardless of experience, is like how curious they are as a human being and how much grit that they have, right? Like the 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 advice is like be curious, like learn things, right? Like I became a great SE because I understood the product better than like the average engineer at the company, because I just like went just all over the place. Like I would like consume information, I would ask questions, and like just become an expert. um and it's not just about learning the product, right? Like um watch your gong recordings and like figure out how the CEO talks about the product, right? Like emulate some of that verbiage, right? Like always adapt, always be curious, always learn, always adapt. Like that's like the best thing you're gonna do for yourself. I've had SEs who have had limited technical background and became the most technical SEs by the time I in a few years. And I've had people who are extremely technical and they became like much better strategic thinkers. So always find gaps, be curious, learn, go do all of that. Um, Grit is like just do what it takes, right? Like I think like having a low ego about like just getting a job done and being like helpful to your teammates, to your company, all of that thing is always like um always going to like uh, return dividends in the long run, because that will help you. You could call in favors from engineering if you help out engineering, obviously, which is obviously nice in deals. um and then the last thing I would mention is like be customer obsessed, which is like make them feel that like first of all you're consultative to them and make them feel like you're on their corner. And that's how you build like true technical champions. Like if you are in a city where your customer is happy, for example, if they're not in your city or whatever, and you happen to be in that city and your customer's there, and if you can text your champion, be like, "Hey, I would love to get dinner with you," and they're like, "Okay, what time?" If that's their response, then you have built a true technical champion because you are customer obsessed to get it done. There's a human element to it. There's just like work element to it. um, but be customer obsessed, right? Like be a good person, just be fun, honestly. For your customers, if you're not fun, like they're not gonna I mean, it's a human role inherently, they're not gonna want to buy from you if you at least are not like fun. So yeah, those would be my advices. And I know I covered like a lot. I know you mentioned just one thing.
Yeah, that's fine. And what's next for Shiv?
What's next for me? So I've been very fortunate for my first two roles at Samsara and Glean, like generational companies in their respective industries doing well. I'm now at Factory, which is a agentics agent native software engineering platform, and I'm building out the SE team here. So I'm like really looking forward to. I'm going back to like a small company, right? Like this is where I thrive. So went back to another 30% company. I'm going to be building out the team from scratch, and I am hiring. So if you build something cool with Factory and you send me a video of it, that improves your interview chances. But but yeah, I want to do the same thing again. Build a fantastic team, one of the best SC teams in the business, um, and just continue down the learning path. I think AI is a very exciting space, especially there's so much to explore. So wanted to go back to something that I would enjoy building from scratch again.
Yeah, exciting times. There's no one better to be doing it. So congratulations, Shiv. Shiv, this has been incredibly insightful, helpful conversation for me. I'm sure everyone listening and watching is going to feel the same. A couple of highlights. I love the point around sort of writing down your thoughts. I'm a big advocate of that. I was always told at school, hammered into me, that if you write something down, you'll remember it for much longer than just thinking. And in this age of AI note taking, it's easy not to do that, but I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah,
So,
granola. Like I literally can just like go talk to granola. Like I just am like sitting and folding my clothes in my house after laundry, and I'm just like talking to granola as I'm like folding clothes, and it just gets me enough notes or the transcript out. Really use the tools available. I think we're in very exciting times. Like the things that you did not want to do in the past, now you don't have to do. Like there is like a lot of things available to take care of all the frustrating parts of your life.
absolutely. Well, Shiv, thanks so much for joining me. I'm sure you won't mind if people want to follow along. They can follow you or connect with you on LinkedIn. If people are interested in applying for the role, like you said, a Factory, there's the ad there. And for those listening who are interested in the next episode, we'll be interviewing another inspirational pre-sales professional. But in the meantime, thank you very much. I've been Chris Clark, and thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Chris.